Hello and welcome to Friday. I hope your holiday season's off to a great start, and I hope you've had a fantastic week so far. Welcome to our next webinar in our compliance series. Today we'll be covering the USA Patriot Act. This is the fifth and final set of compliance regulations, so we will have covered all of the major compliance sections by the end of the day today. We'll follow the same schedule, pattern, format as we've followed in the past. We'll do a brief review of all of the regulations that we've covered so far. We'll dive into the USA Patriot Act, see if there's any questions. And by the way, you're free to go ahead and type in your questions, and if there's time, we'll get to them at the end of this. This will, of course, be recorded, and it will be available for later viewing. So the USA Patriot Act, it actually does stand for something. It's uniting and strengthening America by providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct Terrorism Act. So what's it really about? Say no to money laundering, don't finance terrorism. All of the compliance laws and regulations that we've covered and that apply in your stores really are about three things: detect and prevent identity theft, don't sell to terrorists or their affiliates, and don't become involved with money laundering activities. Everything that we've talked about is covering those three areas. So recall that there are 5 components: red flags, disposal, OFAC, safeguard, and now the Patriot Act. There's a lot of overlap between these areas. The red flags rules are about identity theft. It's about using stolen credit card numbers, driver's license numbers, social security numbers, other personal non-public information. And identity thieves can steal thousands of dollars in a short time and with not a lot of effort. And most people don't know that their information has been stolen or compromised or is being used inappropriately until it's too late. They find out because they've got an unpaid bill. They find out because all of a sudden there was money missing from an account, or if there were charges they didn't know anything about. The red flags rules were passed to find and prevent identity theft. So the red flag rule policies and procedures calls for 5 phases, and these apply to each of the 5 sections that we've talked about. Identify the suspicious behaviors. Detect, so know what to look for. Be sure that you're checking photo IDs and social security cards. If a driver's license looks like the plastic has been peeled, that's a red flag. Have a response plan. You have to know what you're going to do if you have evidence of identity theft. Someone must be responsible for administering this plan and each of the regulations. That's the reason why you appoint a compliance officer. They administer it, they make sure that the proper procedures are being followed, they ensure that the appropriate training is being done, and they document everything. And then finally, on a regular, probably annual basis, you will evaluate how the procedures, how all of the rules that you have in place are working, and make adjustments as needed. Disposal policies and procedures, these are about how you get rid of the non-public information that you've captured. Now, the question comes up, why do you collect it in the first place? Well, you have to. You have to have it to run your business. You can't process a loan without getting this non-public information. So in order to comply with the red flag rules, you have to see the photo ID and their social security number, and you probably should be taking copies of those. Those copies need to be protected, and when the time comes to dispose of them, they have to be disposed of properly. Now, the credit report itself, as long as you have the feature turned on, will show if a person's passed the red flags tests and if they meet the business requirements. Credit reports, when being disposed of, have to be disposed of properly. So what does proper disposal consist of? Cross-shredded paper records. Always. You can't throw away any non-public or financial information without cross-shredding. Computerized records, you have to destroy the drive or the memory card or the chip where this information has been stored. The simple act of deleting will not get rid of the information. It destroys links that make it easy for you and me to get to the information, but it does not prevent a determined criminal from scrubbing and reading that whole disk. So there is a maintenance period. You have to store these documents properly when you have them and then dispose of them properly. You have to keep credit reports for 7 years. Your copies of the driver's license and social security card have to be maintained for at least 2 years. OFAC, it's the Office of Foreign Asset Control. Basically, it says it's against the law to make a loan or to accept money from anyone on the OFAC list. And the penalties can be quite severe for this, even if it's just inaction or neglect. Oh, I forgot to run the OFAC check. And it turns out that that was a terrorist or a terrorist affiliate. You could be in for significant fines or potentially even jail time. It's an easy test to run. The OFAC form is freely available through the government. It's just a link. Make sure that everybody that's responsible for pulling or taking cash, taking credit applications is always running the OFAC check. After you've done it all and you've put in as much information as you've got, if you're still seeing that this person appears to be on the OFAC list, let your compliance officer know there's an OFAC hotline that you can call to verify that this person is, who they are and they are on that list, and they will help you determine what the best next step would be. I don't like costing you business, but in this case, if you can't be sure that someone is not on the terrorist list, don't do business with them. Don't go to jail. Safeguard rule. This just talks about who has to comply and how. So any business, and this is certainly yours, that collects a customer's non-public information needs to keep it safe. There needs to be proper protection and safeguards in place to protect electronic and written data. And you have to have your structures set up so that employees and others cannot steal non-public information on someone else that you might have in your possession. Again, you have to have a written plan. You have to have someone to administer that plan. You have to identify the areas where you could potentially be exposing non-public information. You have to have a plan to prevent these issues and to monitor and test the plan. You have to train your employees. You have to select your service providers that would be your credit agencies or anyone that you're sharing non-public information with has to have appropriate safeguards in place as well. And then, as with all the others, on a regular basis, you need to audit the effectiveness and revise your plan as necessary. So now we're moving on to the USA Patriot Act. This is a law that was passed in late 2001 in response to the terrorist activities of September 11th, 2001. And what it's really all about at its heart is requiring lenders to make sure that they're not assisting terrorists by lending money to them or laundering money for them. Now, let me be clear, because while much of the act refers to lenders, indirect lenders apply as well. Now, certainly, the banks that you work with can help you, but you have to take the steps as well to make sure that you are doing the right things. So you have to have an anti-money laundering program so you can be sure that you're not doing something that's going to assist them in money laundering. Cash payments of $10,000 or more have to be reported on the IRS FinCEN form 8300. Now, cumulative cash payments that exceed $10,000 will qualify as well. So if you got $2,500 a quarter for 4 straight quarters, that would need to be reported in cash. That would need to be reported on this FinCEN. So what is cash? Well, cash is cash, of course. It's cashier's checks that are under $10,000. So if you take 2 cashier's checks for under $10,000 that add up to over $10,000, that is required to be reported. Money orders have to be reported. Traveler's checks have to be reported. Gold, silver, anything that's not credit. And what you do have to watch for here is the drip, 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 where someone is making repeated cash purchases for a related item or items that over a period of several months add up to over $10,000. So you have to be able to track and be on the alert for that type of activity. So again, you have to verify the identity of the person you're dealing with. You've got to be storing their information appropriately. You've got to be disposing of the information properly. And basically, it comes down to this, and this is the most important thing that you can train all of your employees on. If you see something, say something. If something makes you go, it's time to let the compliance officer know. It's time to call the hotline number. It's time to ask for help. It's not time, in the interest of just closing the business, risking big fines or jail time. Just be safe. So that was it. This is a brief topic, but a critically important one. And let's see, I see we do have a question here. What's the relation between OFAC and the FinCEN form? You know, this has caused a lot of confusion. It's a great question. And the answer is they're 2 separate but equal laws. OFAC says any cash transaction on any amount you should do an OFAC check on. Now, certainly there are reasonableness thresholds. You know, somebody is buying a can of Coke. You don't need to do an OFAC check on that. But when somebody's starting to buy expensive toys, a $3,000 depth finder, an expensive stereo system, and they're paying cash, just take their driver's license to give them a receipt and do the OFAC check on that. That is the OFAC. There is no lower limit threshold on the cash that needs to be checked according to OFAC. Now, the FinCEN 8300 is about $10,000 transactions or more, or cumulative $10,000 transactions. Now, honestly, if somebody pulled out cash and paid you $3,000 of cash for something, that's worthy of doing the OFAC check on. But by itself, that would not trigger the FinCEN requirement. Now, if over the course of a year, someone buys a series of expensive stereo components that cumulatively do add up to $10,000, you should have been doing the OFAC check along the way, but you still have to file the FinCEN. Filing FinCEN is not a substitute for the OFAC check, and the OFAC check is not a substitute for FinCEN. All right. Ensure that you're not laundering money. Have a program that you can follow and administer. Don't lend money to terrorists. And then do the rest. Check the red flags. Dispose of non-public information in a secure way. Keep it safe when you have it. Just stay safe. Don't do money laundering. Don't do business with terrorists or affiliates. Don't get fined. Don't go to jail. You'll be happier that way. And again, close only counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and compliance. If you're making a good faith effort to do the right things, if you have your compliance documents bound, signed by a compliance officer, you have a compliance officer appointed, you have your employees trained, and you have evidence of that training, and you have your policies, you're doing the reviews, you're checking your staff employees' behaviors, you're making a good faith effort. That goes a long, long way. So just do it right. Stay safe. Don't get fined. Don't go to jail. Well, we'll do a wrap-up session on December 18th. So we're skipping a week. And we're going to have a special interview at that session. So I think you'll enjoy that. A lot of good information will be coming from that. So I look forward to having you join us on December the 18th to wrap up our compliance webinar series. Thank you very much. The link is here. You can drop me an email at merle@dealerprofit.com, and I'll be posting the links again. And as always, I will put up the link so that this recording can be viewed as well. Thanks for coming. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy the rest of your week. Stay safe. Thanks very much.